Dedication by Pastor Jason Jordan of Westside Church of God.
Jeremiah 29 says, "But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you yourselves will find welfare." Heavenly Father, that's what we ask. We come before you, God, and first off, I thank you for each one of these council members. And God, we pray for wisdom, and we pray for the welfare of the city of Poplar, Bluff. And God, we pray for their lives and blessings upon them and their families. And ultimately, we pray wisdom through the power of your Holy Spirit. And we pray all of these things in the wonderful name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call.
Councilman DeGarrett.
Here.
Councilwoman Abshir.
Here.
Councilman Branham. Councilman Tinsley.
Here.
Councilman Johnson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Russian.
Here.
Mayor Pearson.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Disclosure of interest. Any member of the City Council may disclose any possible conflict of interest dealing with either any item on the printed agenda or with any matter discussed at a previous meeting. I have to disclose I have a conflict on workshop item A and action required item CC. So I will ask Mayor Pro Tem Russian to step in and run the meeting at that point. Anyone else? Citizens input. Each person in the audience may take this opportunity to address the City Council on any matter which is not on the printed agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on to workshop required items. Mayor Pro Tem Russian, would you come up at this time?
Item A, City Council will review a request for the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve a conditional use permit for an adult daycare facility in a C2 general commercial zoning area. The applicant is Cambridge Adult Care Center of Poplar Bluff, LLC, CO Cameron Stall, 1482 8F 123 Manchester, Missouri, and will be located at 2162 1 North Westwood Boulevard. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. As you stated, Cambridge Adult Daycare Center is the intended applicant on this. They are the business owner. They wish to have an adult daycare facility to serve up to 50 patrons at this location. We do have plans in the building, and were reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission and by the Planning Department. The existing zoning is C2 General Commercial. It's at the back part of Poplar Bluff Square, the space within an existing building. The surrounding land use to the north is C1 Neighborhood Commercial, and to the south, east, and west is C2 General Commercial. As stated, it is an existing building. They are building in on the inside of this building to provide the space intended for the use of this facility. Access would be from North Westwood and from High Street, which ends in proximity of this building. Police and fire protection are available, with fire station number 2 being the first responder. The general character of this area is commercial, and the concept of an adult daycare facility is somewhat new to this area. The facility was approved for a conditional use permit in 2006, but never came to fruition. From the neighborhood perspective, the impact of this proposed use should be similar to a traditional daycare center. Some of the patrons will be picked up at their homes and dropped off at the front entrance of the building, and others would be dropped off individually at the front entrance. In the ever-growing senior population, there is a definite need for adult care and supervision. A business plan has been provided in your packet from the applicant. It provides a mission statement and statistics on the aging population's needs. I believe you will note that the applicant has requested this item be workshopped and voted on at the same time. We did not do that in the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, but most questions are responded to in a timely manner. Corporate ownership was there at the workshop meeting in Planning and Zoning, as they are here tonight, to answer questions that might come up. The franchisee had an architect prepare a floor plan, and the pickup drop-off area will be in the front of the building, has been approved by the Planning Department and the Fire Department. The staff does recommend approval of this request for a conditional use permit with the following stipulations. The conditional use permit would go with the franchisee of the adult daycare facility. If a new franchisee takes over, a new permit must be requested and approved. And the second stipulation, which was brought out in Planning and Zoning as well, was that the applicant must meet all requirements of the state of Missouri prior to an occupancy permit being issued for this facility. Questions?
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a question, if I may.
Go ahead.
I wasn't at the meeting, so I did hear there was a concern brought up by one specific Planning Commission member. I just wonder if you could please share that concern.
I can. He wanted to know if there were beds available for people that needed that type of care or that type of an arrangement. And this facility, and they do have facilities that provide that level of service. This one is not planned to provide that level of service. There will be a nurse on staff at all times when they're open, and there is a resting bed, but not one that is expected to be occupied throughout the day by the type of resident or client that this facility is going to serve.
So what we're talking about is the difference between an assisted living facility and basically a day. Thank you.
And that was discussed, and I think we resolved it at the other meeting, but I don't know that it satisfied one of the members at that time.
And just my only final question with that is the licensing requirements with the state any different for those two different types, being one a daycare versus a?
I'm sure there is, because you get into a level of care that requires skilled care. Even though there is a nurse on staff, I think there's probably a level, it's based upon the number of people with that greater need that you have. That would require a higher level of staffing for the type of facility that was described.
Great, thank you.
And as I stated, the corporate representation is here tonight. And they do have numerous ones around the state, so.
And the P&Z vote on that was unanimous to forward it to the council, wasn't it?
No, there was one vote against.
I think it was unanimous.
7 votes for. I mean, there's all votes for.
Harold didn't vote against it?
No, he had
No.
questioned, but he voted
He had
for.
questions, but
There was the other
everybody-
item, I'm sorry.
The other
That's
item.
correct. There was
Everybody
another item that
voted
wasn't
for.
unanimous.
Okay.
That's correct, David. Thank you for correcting me on
Okay.
that.
Any further questions for Mr. Avery?
Thank you.
Okay. Does a representative from Cambridge Adult Care wish to speak to us?
No, sir, unless you have a question.
That's fine. Anybody got a question for Cambridge?
I had one, but it's answered.
Okay. Okay.
The only question I had, Mayor Pro Tem, if I may.
Yes.
Can you give us a historical background of the firm, where you have similar locations, et cetera? Just kind of give us a little bit of a background, please.
Not a problem. The industry, if I may, is about 45 years old. It's not unlike childcare. And in the state of Missouri, there's about 270 of them. The state had approached the woman who runs our business, Christine Zershoff, who was here at the last meeting, if you recall, about us going to multiple more municipalities. This was one on their list. As you all are aware, there's not one in this municipality or in the county. Cambridge has been around. We're entering our third full year of operation. We have 2 in the city of St. Louis, 1 in the city of St. Charles. We have 1 opening in my hometown one day this week, Thayer, Missouri, a little west on 142. And we have 1 under construction in Kennett, Eureka, Labadie, and we have about 4 or 5 more, including Rolla, Springfield, that should start sometime after the first of the year. And a little further on your answer to your question, because Mr. Lindsay was correct, we don't have anyone that spends a night. We're truly a daycare. The bed is for someone who might be ill or someone who might be prone when they're examined. So no, there is no overnight care. Anything else I can?
No, thank you very
And
much.
To explain that, he wasn't wanting overnight care, he was wanting beds in there, because he said, I'm an older guy, and I like to take those during the day. So that's what he was concerned about, was whether there's a bed in there that they could rest during the day.
And you will see in some facilities where people do use for that, but actually the units are outfitted with recliners, and there's an area, a quiet area. And we would welcome, I know that there'll be an open house open, but feel free to ever come in, because that's part of what we like. There's people to come in and see, and they get an idea of what the facility is like, and that helps us better serve the community.
Good. Thank you. You answered the question. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion, we move to the voting session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of moving item A to the voting session, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, carries the voting session.
Item B, the City Council will discuss a proposed ordinance approving a settlement agreement with CenturyLink Wireless and assigning a percentage of the settlement proceeds to the Missouri Municipal League. Mr. Kaplan?
Actually, on this one, because this one was prior to my tenure, if the clerk wouldn't mind providing some background on this one, this would be my recommendation.
We've had several of these over the years. The very first one, I believe, was with AT&T. We've done Verizon. We've done Sprint. There's been about 5 of them. And basically, this will get an ordinance on our books now for Century Tel-Link to, just so they'll know how much they have to pay us as far as a franchise fee. It's taxes. There's not much that's due on this one, but we do have an attorney, an actual law firm that we hired in St. Louis. It was back in 2006, I believe. They represent these for us. You all probably remember that. John Mulligan is his name, but they do all these. They're class action lawsuits. There's several cities in this, and ours only amounts to about $1,500. Where we pay Missouri Municipal League, that's a 5% fee that we pay them. That goes into a pool. They keep that pool of money and represent all the cities that are a member of MML. Anytime there's a lawsuit, that's how they represent us with those. So you don't have to do that settlement proceed with Missouri Municipal League, but they do a lot of, they're lobbyists. They keep us informed on everything that's going on. So, but that's the council's option. It does include that in this ordinance that we're proposing, that we give them 5% of that. The attorney also gets 5% of the proceeds for representing us on these class action lawsuits. So if we need to amend that, we can.
Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Pam, is this what we've done in the past?
Yes,
Same
it
thing?
is.
Okay.
If there are any further questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion to move this. to
I'll make a
voting session.
motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second to move item B to the voting session to be held tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, the City Council will review a proposed ordinance accepting a bid from Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield with regard to health and dental insurance coverage of employees of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Mr. Kaplan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item C refers to the efforts that Aon has completed on behalf of the city. They solicited several insurance providers, within the geographic region that were able to cover our employees in this area. And without giving the rigmarole of every single one of the insured providers that were interested, Blue Cross Blue Shield was the recommended. However, just for full disclosure purposes, they were not the lowest bid. But Aon's recommendation was to move forward with Anthem Blue Cross, with the reason why, because their network was a lot more abundant and strong, so we could leverage the power of the discounts that they have versus their competitors. And so when you break down the cost to the city, which ultimately is what we're looking for, is to obviously lower our costs where we can. Aon felt that we had the best chance of success through Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. And so we moved forward with that recommendation. We talked with the insurance committee that was formed, that it was the ones that originally recommended Aon to us. They were fully informed as to the plan design. In addition, instead of only offering one plan this year, we're going to be offering 3. With that is the current plan, which is a standard 90-10 plan. The one underneath that will be more like an 80-20 plan, and then we'll be offering an HSA health savings account plan as well. And so this time we're offering to the employees choices that they haven't had in a while. In addition to that, we're also offering to the employees a insurance buyout, which hasn't been offered that I'm aware of ever, to employees that are willing to take a payment in lieu of the coverage if they have eligible insurance with a spouse that's available to them. Because they have to sign a waiver that they're assuring us that they have that coverage, so it'll keep us in the good graces with the Affordable Care Act. And so with this, it lowers the city's cost. It offers the employees more choices of benefits, and it also offers them a way to, if they have other insurance coverage, to put some money in their pocket in lieu of taking the coverage itself. So if there's any questions at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you or the council may have, Madam Mayor.
We've had Blue Cross and Blue Shield before here, and they've always been a good company. My only concern was looking through the budget, the difference from last year's budget and the recommended on this year was like a $600,000 increase on the city's behalf.
Yeah, and the only reason for that is if we accept the rates currently as proposed, actually it'd be a decrease. The only reason why there would be a potential increase of, which in that case is only 10%, believe it or not, is to start repaying ourselves for the negative balance that's in the internal service fund for the healthcare insurance, and dental, of course, but healthcare is the one that's way negative. Dental's nowhere near that bad. And so, so what I'm looking at with staff right now is there's 2 ways to slice this thing. We can either start paying ourselves slowly back now, or there is an alternative, which I am pursuing, because again, I don't like just throwing one option at anyone, is to take the savings, pass that on not only to the employee but the employer, and then use the equity, the cash on hand the city has available to it to make up the deficit. So I'm going to show you both versions. So if we did take the proposed rates as is, it would lower our cost. But what it would do is basically we would just wipe the slate clean and take that loss, and we'd have to make it up with available cash reserves, and then move forward. So there's really 2 ways to do it. Either we can do the clean slate approach, where we can lower our costs right now, or we can basically start repaying ourselves for that loss. And those are 2 versions. The version you're looking at is the repayment version. There'll be the clean slate version you'll see as well, no later than the 15th.
On either version, the revenue comes from the same source.
It does.
How do the employees feel about this?
The employees, when we had the mandatory meeting, with the employees to show them their cost on if we went up rates by 10%. To be honest with you, I think the majority that I've talked to, and the impression I got from the employees, the majority of them, they don't like it, but it was at least okay, because my original plan was to charge ourselves 20% back, and so this was a meeting in the middle, so to speak. And so I say some were okay with it, but again, some were, it's not that they liked it, but they were at least willing to concede that we have to do something to make up for the negative equity that's in the fund. I think all of them were excited about going to Blue Cross Blue Shield, given that some of their providers right now that they've been using are out-of-network providers right now, and they'd like to have an in-network provider, and the chances of them being in-network in Blue Cross is a lot greater than competitor networks. So the other thing is we're getting increased benefits. To give you an example, is something as simple as physical therapy or chiropractic care. Right now, physical therapy, chiropractic care is in one pool benefit for under our current plan. You get X amount of days. I think it's 21, 23 days, something like that. I think it's right around there. Well, under Blue Cross Blue Shield, they separate the benefit to where the 21 or 23 days is available for chiropractic care and for physical therapy. So it's completely separated. So this is an expansion of benefits. Now, does that increase our cost? Yes, it does. But in those areas, you want to make sure your employees are being cared for to get them back into a condition where they can come back to work. And so I think that's a reason why I think some of them are pretty excited about the change. I know I'm excited about it because we go from an unbundled insurance approach back to a bundled approach. And I think that's the greatest reason why you're seeing the savings. But again, providing full disclosure, the other portion of how we're providing a rate that's lower than our current cost now also is we have an immature rate. Now, if you don't understand that piece is, we're going to have rollout from our current provider. And it could be up to 6 months. Let's use that as an example. So the rate that we're paying to Blue Cross may be only a 1-year savings because the immature rate, meaning it's not a full rolling 12-month quote, because they know that we're going to have run out. It's might be only a 1-year punch, and so let's hope not. But it just I want to make sure you guys understand what I know, and I've seen it over and over, and that's the reason why when I was in Muskegon County, we ping-ponged back and forth between Priority Health and Blue Cross in Michigan, is because we keep getting immature rates back and forth where we keep saving money, but no one likes ping-ponging back and forth either. And I'm not advocating necessarily that for our employees here, but sorry to kind of go on and on and on. So, any other questions I can help answer at this point? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any motions?
I'll make a motion to move item C, the voting session.
Second.
Motion and a second to move item C to the voting session to be held tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, the City Council will review a recommendation from the Municipal Utilities Advisory Board regarding a Plum Point unit power purchaser sale of electricity certificate.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This request is a component of the annual due diligence activity MUSMUC performs to meet its ongoing bond compliance requirements with respect to all the Plum Point unit power purchasers. MUSMUC needs all unit power purchasers to confirm the certificate regarding sale of electricity to verify there are no private use issues. This was discussed at the advisory board and would recommend this approval. If there's any questions, be happy to answer.
It's just an annual certificate.
Yeah, last one we did was the mayor signed in 2009 was last one. That was requested.
How long will this last?
1 year. I think what's happened is they didn't know they were supposed to be doing it annually,
But now they do.
and now they do.
All right. Sounds like a...
Yeah, requirement for the bond.
For us to sell or buy from
No, this, as part of the bond, what this certificate is saying is that we did not enter into a sub-agreement with another entity to sell the power. What we are saying is that power came to us and is being used by us. That's what's in the bond covenants. That,
We use all the power on that one.
correct, it comes here, we have the right to sell, but we can't enter into agreement to sell. So we couldn't go to another party and say, we'll sell you all the power out of that for the next 10 years. That would be illegal. That's in the bond. That's what this is saying. We have not entered into a sub-agreement.
Can we sell the overage?
We do that today. Right, and that is in the covenant, that's allowed.
And actually, Madam Mayor, what may help as well is I've downloaded from Emma the official statement from the Missouri Joint Electric Commission, I can't get it. I don't even know how to say the acronym right yet. But that offering document is very, very educational. It provides you with the full breadth of the history. It's 206 pages, but if you look at more specifically pages like 10 and 11, it walks you through this history, breaks down the unit power purchasers, the pool members, what's the difference. It's really, I mean, if you guys don't mind, I'll forward that document to you that really will walk you through this. And I think it will provide some good education as to how this Plum Point project, if I'm saying that right, works, and how it benefits us.
Make a motion, we move this to the voting session.
Second.
Motion is second to move item D to the voting session to be held tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item E, the City Council will review a proposed ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a master service agreement between the City of Poplar Bluff and Big River Telephone for the purchase of fiber circuit. Mr. Kaplan.
Yeah, and this one, Madam Mayor, is simply that since we're moving forward with a virtual desktop and server environment, we're going to be heavily dependent on our internet service to be up and available at all times. And so to have a redundant service and have failover, we have to make some adjustments. So we have different IP access in case one goes down. So let's say, like today, we have a nice storm. Let's say the tree severs, let's say, a fiber line of our only primary line, we're down. So obviously when we're going to be on a virtual desktop environment, we all go down, we're back to the era of paper and pencil and typewriter. So with redundant service, we're hoping to avoid any outages. Can't guarantee it 100%, but we sure increase our costs. Increase our net costs. Well, it does increase our costs, but increases our coverage. So we're paying basically for some insurance and redundancy.
What is the increase in cost?
So on the agreement, let me pop to that page. It was, see if I can bring up that page real quick. Bear with me. It's a 412-page document, so hold on a sec. Oh, let me do that on a search, so let me keep going.
So we're buying this 100 meg
Yep,
fiber service. This says 1849.
yep, thank you. Mine's still
$18?
sprawling. No, $1,849.
$1,800.
$49 a month.
That's the way you just described it. Okay. Do we have any further comments or questions?
Is that a running service, or is it just something that sits in limbo till it's needed?
Well, no, it'll be a running service. And again, depending on how we utilize it fully, we're going to be using it not only to back up our service for our desktop environment, but also our phone service. And so, yeah, it's there for emergency as well, but we could also split up, hypothetically, like we can put telephone on one and desktop on another. But I think for this purposes, that when I looked at the engineering document from our IT consultant, that they're going to use it for failover purposes.
What is the other?
The other internet service provider, the current one we have is it New Wave or Nitel? Thank you. So we got NITEL as the primary, and
I think it's a 100 meg fiber the way this is. I can't hear you. It's a 100 meg fiber the way this is? That's correct.
NITEL. And this, and I believe the Big River proposals through Show Me Technologies.
No one a 5-year agreement.
Helps lower your costs the longer you go out.
Make a motion to move it to the voting session.
Second.
Motion and a second to move item E to the voting session to be held tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, the City Council will discuss entering into an agreement with the Utility Financial Solutions LLC to complete a 5-year financial protection and a 1-year rate design for the electric department. Mr. Bach?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, at the November 17th advisory board meeting, we had a healthy discussion on utility rates. And as part of that, the advisory board recommended that we enter into an agreement with Utility Financial Solutions to complete a 5-year financial projection. I don't know, it says protection, it's really projection. And a 1-year rate design.
It does say that.
Yeah,
Did I read it that way?
I don't know, I just saw the word. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Last time we had a rate study, they, it's not the same company, right? It's a
That's
different. I asked them, I said, did you look at ways to save money first before recommending an increase? Please make sure if we approve this, that they look at ways to save money first. That's all I ask.
Can you answer that, Heath?
I'm
Sure.
just saying.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'd be happy to. And to give you a little bit of background and history behind this, I've been now attending the municipal advisory board meetings, and I think we've been having some very productive discussions at that meeting. And this really came as my request to the advisory board to move forward with a 5-year financial projection and a 1-year rate design. And it was due, because when you look at the data that's in the budget document that Councilman DeGuerres referred to prior, the cash balances for the electric utility is declining. Now, there's reasons behind that, and Bill and I talked even this afternoon about those reasons, which were showing some recovery. But if you go back and you go back in time in history with the utility, you'll see that we used to have a lot more abundant reserve than what we have now. And so what I asked for consideration by the advisory board was to look at our rate design, but also before we even look at the rate design, look at a financial projection. But with that assumptions, we've got our operation and maintenance expenses, we've got our capital expenses, and of course we got debt. In my professional opinion, now, it's not that we won't ask for efficiencies at all. There is nowhere that I can see where we can lower our cost right at the moment, but that's my 2 cents. Utility Financial Solution might say, well, we might be able to tweak here, tweak there, which we will. We will make efficiencies where we can. But overall, if anything, I think you're, again, I've said this more than once, I think your rates are a little bit too low to capture in the full cost of the utility. But that's just my 2 cents, and that's why I want to verify that through a professional opinion, and that's exactly what this will get us. It'll give us a neutral, independent opinion as to, one, the financial projection from 15 and through 20, and then, okay, now that we've got that and we have the assumptions in place that we're all comfortable with when it comes to capital reinvestment in future debt or expansion or whatever, all the variables. Once we have that worked out, then we can move to a rate design that, okay, based on those goals, let's put together some rate design to make that happen. Sorry, that's a long-winded answer to your question.
I appreciate the idea of the rate study. I think it needs to be done. It still doesn't really change the overall pockets of the citizens in Poplar Bluff. And if we go and raise rates on people, they're still not going to be able to afford it. I have maintained that from the beginning of my term, and I still stand with that. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I know that even if with an increase, people still aren't going to be able to afford it. So.
And that's a concern that I share as well. And it's something we'll talk about in regards to moving forward. But in this case, you got the utility running out of money out of its pockets versus the customer. And so we have to worry about the majority. I know it's a cold answer, but we have to worry about the majority, not the minority. And we have to make sure we have a fiduciary responsibility to provide the utility.
Last year, we had, when the council voted to raise the rates, we had business owners who went from $13 bills to over $60 bills, and they barely used the service to begin with. And even though that sounds very minimal, it's a lot to people, you know. So the utility increase stuff is really touchy for a lot of people, and I just hope that everyone understands why, you know.
I do, noted.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
one of the things that was made clear when Dave and I were first running for council, one of the first things on our platform was saving money on electric rates. And that's because a lot of the public came to us, and that was the thing they were concerned about.
Right.
The more we researched it, we found that really our rates were pretty good. And in fact, the only people cheaper than us, I think, is Sykeston, and that's because they own a power plant. We immediately took that off of our platform. And you know, as we see, as we've talked about these other imbalances we have with the healthcare and everything, it's important we stay solvent, and utilities has to have more money coming in than they have going out, just like any household or any business.
That's right.
So that's something that I'm looking forward to see what the study says, to see what they say, because you know that's gonna summarize it and boil it down to what we need to do.
Any further questions or comments?
Thank you.
If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I think,
Did we already make it?
didn't you make a motion?
Make a motion, to move it to the voting session, I guess, 15th? Or is it on tonight's?
15th.
For the 15th?
15th.
Second.
Motion is second to move item F to the voting session held on December 15th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item G, the City Council will review the proposed budget for the City of Poplar Bluff for fiscal year 2015.
And Madam Mayor, the reason why we added this as a placesetter on the agenda for tonight is to make sure that we're also opening up the floor to the council to ask any additional questions they may have on the budget. Tonight, originally, we were hoping to do the public hearing, but then when we thought about the logistics of the enrollment to the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, which we're going to be starting tomorrow, we're given a deadline to the employees is December 5th to make a decision if either they're going to take the buyout or take the insurance plan that the city's offering. And so with that, it's a big cost swing expense-wise for the budget. So that's the reason why we'll be presenting the budget on the 15th. But with that, Madam Mayor wanted to provide also with a tentative date for, not for the 15 budget, but now I'm thinking about the 14 budget close. That we're going to need another council meeting in December, possibly the 29th, to close out fiscal 14. And that way we can button up fiscal 14 for the year. You guys can see how we're going to end expense versus cash wise. And then the 15th you'll have the presentation for the 15 budget on the 15th. So now it can be moved also to the 29th as well. And if you're not ready, once you see the presentation and the actual final document on the 15th, so just want to keep you in the loop on that, the timeline.
Have any of the department heads came to you with changes?
they have, and they've been incorporated into the document.
I just wanted you to discuss that for the public because we were discussing how much more it was and that it was going to change. So do you have an idea about how much of a difference it's changed?
Well, the big difference, to give you an idea, is, and like I told you, if you looked at the draft document that you have in front of you here today, and if you took out just all the capital requests, you're looking at a budget deficit. You know, it's you know, of course, when you got 60 million plus budget deficit, it's still a high one. You're in the $700,000 to $800,000 range, and that's a big hole to plug. And so. Now remember that we're going to be putting together a 5-year capital improvement plan, meaning that not everything's going to be funded in fiscal 15. It's just whatever is the highest priorities that myself and staff determine as the highest priorities, excuse me, and then also what's allowable by the council. And so that will be funded not with operational dollars, but with what I call 910 funds, which is that half-cent sales tax capital improvement funds. And we got to balance because I got, like we talked about before, is I want those 910 funds to be available not only for the departments, but also for the wards that have their projects that were highlighted throughout each of the wards. And I'm working on estimates for those projects. You know, I've gotten some of the numbers in, but not all of them are in yet. But again, I want to keep our promise not only to our departments, but to our public. And the biggest one, a consistent capital improvement project, actually if I could say two, but 1 and 2, I would say 1A and 1B, is drainage is number one. I would, if I had to rank them, 1A and 1B will be gravel road to being paved. But the one that I'm concentrating heavily on is the drainage piece, because it's the one that has the greatest concern, not only to me, but to this community. You only have to be here every, Jeremy, every 3 or 4 years, you'll find out why drainage is important to this community, because you're going to get a flood. And with that, I've got a proposal to look at a master plan of our drainage, of what's owned by the city and what's privately owned. And it's part of the puzzle that'll help us work on this long-standing problem with drainage in this community, and that we got to start tackling. It's going to take time, but at least this will be the beginning of saying, okay, of all the, we'll say, miles of drainage that's available in the city limits, what percentage of that is even owned by the city? You'll probably be pretty shocked to understand that that number is not as high as you think it may be. So that's where we're starting, because I want to start addressing that drainage problem. Because again, it's not if, it's when we're gonna flood again, and so I want to make sure that we're proactively dealing with it. And I've got the cost in already for that plan, but I've been waiting for a couple more estimates on the gravel roads, and then on the third, if I had to say, the third priority was demolition of properties that are substandard. I know Renisha is working on some grant opportunities that might possibly help us there. We're waiting on news on that. And also getting houses that are below standard 2 standard. So we're not just talking just demolition across the board here. We're talking, yeah, how can we demolish some properties? Also, how can we get properties that are kind of on that borderline to the standard moving forward? So those are the 3 major areas that I have seen from the ward meetings that I'm working on as well, that you'll see in the final document coming here soon.
So we're looking at maybe trying to get easements on the private property on some of the drainage issues so we can go in there and correct them?
Yes, sir. And of course, we're going to have to figure out what those easements are going to cost us, et cetera. But yeah, we got to get control of those easements. And some of them are going to be a little difficult because I think some private owners don't want to grant easements. And so we're going to have to figure out a way to find some middle ground with those private landowners. Because we can all agree that because if we don't have control over the whole system, it's like pockets of the problem that we're only going to be able to maintain. And as they say, is if you're downhill of all that water, the problem's just going to multiply as we're moving our way south. So, but to answer your question, yes, it'll address that as well.
The only other thing that I'd like to bring up is how many days, I think the reason you said there might need to be a rate increase was there's only like 50-something days of reserves in the utilities.
Yeah, if you use let me bring up that data for you real quick. And this is just off the 2013 audit, and that's where the numbers come from. Bear with me here, I'll get that number for you. Here we go. So, cash on hand, you have 56 days of cash as of 12/31 of 13 in the electric utility. And that's about 33, almost 34 million in operation and maintenance expenses. You got cash on hand, non-restricted at 5.2 million, which if you calculate that out, it's 56 days on hand. And it's as of 12/31/13.
Yeah, what I was looking at on that is, we're saying, possible rate increases next year to the utilities. And think that utility, out of their fund, even though, it's all city money, and I understand that, out of the utility fund, they loaned the city, I think it was 4.4 or 4.5 million to get the cable going. And that came out of that fund where this reserves would have been. And I guess what I'm saying is, if we put that money back into that utility fund, that would put that days of reserve up quite a bit and probably do away with the need for a rate increase for 2015.
It possibly could. In some background on that issue is, and we had to follow the audit trail, is when the amount of the money was loaned, it was eventually written off. Now, Bill Bach has indicated, now that doesn't mean it isn't owed. I agree with him. But it was written off because it was deemed as uncollectible because it was basically the city collected from itself. And so with that, if you gave the full amount over to the utility, yes, that would be a one-time fix. It's not a sustainable fix, but it would fix the problem temporarily. Now, it could be a sustainable fix is if we start getting our revenues back up, which is possible. I'm not gonna deny that is a variable. But again, that's another reason for the financial projection. And I think that's another variable that we need to discuss with our consultant. Okay, what do we do with this money? Is because maybe, hey, they'll say, yep, let's put X amount of money into the reserve to offset that low balance. That might be one of their suggestions. But I think at this point, I do agree those are open variables that we need to discuss openly. But let's leave it in the hands of the consultant and in the advisory board to see where they guide us moving forward with that information.
Well, if I understood you right, that would probably take care of 2015 then, as far as a rate increase.
Yeah, it might take you even beyond that. So, like, for example, if, let's say you put $3 million extra into the cash on hand, so that's about 8.2 million. That puts you up to 88 days of cash on hand, which is just a hair below you want to be about 90 days on standard. That's just a hair below where you need to be. And that's if you had $8.2 million cash on hand. And so that would, and assuming you didn't have any major losses in 14, which I don't think we're anticipating, and none in 15, yes, that would forego the need we have right at the moment, correct?
Well, since you're saying,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Since you're saying, you agree that we probably do owe that back to that general fund, and it would do away with the need for a rate increase for 2015 for all the citizens, I'd like to put that in form of a motion that we transfer that 4.5 back to the utility fund and do away with that need for a possible rate increase in 2015.
Well, the biggest concern I have is what you're talking about as a fix, not a temporary fix. And from what I understood, there was never a payment ever made toward the city on that loan. And there was never documentation worked up about what to be satisfied that loan if ever the cable was liquidated. I don't, I'm not necessarily opposed to doing that or opposed to giving part of it back, but I would really like to have the study come back to see what it says. Because if I understood from the previous discussions we've had, was it 2011 and 2012 or 2012 and 2013? We had losses.
Well, you had 2013, 2012, 2011 losses. And again, I don't, for the sake of Councilman DeGarris's motion, I don't disagree that it's not a bad idea that'd be one of our many options available to us. I just don't want to quickly jump to a conclusion of moving $4.7 million on a whim. And so we have it. I'm not going to deny that we have that we don't have the money, but I just don't want to quickly move that kind of cash balance without it thoroughly being vetted.
When you have the expenses we're having in other areas that can't be taken care of by 9010 or 910 money, then that would be taken care of by the general fund money. So if we took all that away, then we wouldn't have that available if we had to have it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask a question. Where would the money come from if we were to move it?
If I could interject here, I think in point of order is that we have a motion that's not been seconded for
Right.
discussion yet. So I
Right.
think the motion has to be seconded before it can be
Madam-
discussed upon.
Madam Mayor, I would like to second that motion that's on the floor.
And then,
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was just a point
Thank
of order.
you. Motion and a second.
Now you have general discussion.
What was the motion? Can you repeat the motion?
It was to transfer that loan from the utilities of, I think it was like 4.4,
Yeah, I don't know the exact amount.
whatever
right? Yeah.
the exact amount was.
It's right
Would
around
be
there.
back to that utility fund, which would have their cash reserves up enough then to do away with the need for a rate increase for 2015 for our citizens.
Okay.
No, Madam Mayor, may I add a couple of points? So let's talk about, so the question was, where would that money come from? So you got the money from the cable sale that I think it's been hotly debated for a while now, which the only money that's been authorized, really, it's coming out of that, has been the Z-Quorum settlement. And other than that, the only, I guess, what I'd call claim on cash, to use a word out of Mark Massingham's vocabulary, against that money would be, you got the negative equity that's in the internal service fund for insurance, which we'll call it 1.82 million. And that's just, I'm giving you a guess. You've got the Coliseum losses, which is going to be probably around $1.5 million this year. And so there's, $3.5 million out of that, roughly $7 million that's gone right there. So the rest of it would be completely wiped away pretty much by this motion. And so the city would go from substantial reserves to zero in one motion. And so just be aware that that doesn't even account for the operational losses that we're probably going to sustain in fiscal 14. And the reason why we're going to sustain them in 15 is because we're planning discussions regarding the Coliseum. And I'm not throwing them or the advisory board under the bus, but we got a lot to discuss. So we are going to be sustaining losses into 15 fiscal, and potentially with the electric utility, but obviously you wouldn't if you move this cash source. So that would be wiped away clean. We'd be good there. But I'm just I guess giving you a flag of possible warning here that you might be just shooting yourselves right in the foot, financially speaking.
Mr. Bach, could you step forward?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Is it your opinion that this money is owed back to the utilities fund?
Well, the money was always borrowed from the utilities. So to me, that is the enterprise fund. The money would be returned to the enterprise fund versus the governmental fund.
Was it written off?
No, we just took it off the books. There was a planned schedule for the cable department to make repayments. The cable, I would come down here, ask to raise cable rates. They said no. We dealt with it as we did, and we just never repaid. The cable department never repaid the electric. There was a schedule for repayment.
What is the possibility of, instead of just paying it all in one whack, like Councilman DeGaris is suggesting, instead of doing that, could we possibly, because I personally, I like the idea of giving the money back to the utility fund so that it delays any increases for people.
And I think you can do that for a portion of funds.
But I don't want to put us in a bind to
yeah.
where we put ourselves where we have no reserves either. So I wonder if there's a way,
There's a middle ground.
is there?
I do, and that's part of what I'm working with the advisory board, is I think there is a middle ground, because I'll be honest, they've advocated what Mr. Bach has advocated. They've been very professional, very diplomatic about it. And I think I'd like to continue those discussions where they belong, in my opinion, there, and then have them flow up to here, because I think we're circumventing a very important advisory board by doing this, one, but you're secondly possibly bankrupting the city. And again, I'll do it whatever you authorize. I'm a good soldier. But I'm just saying financially, you guys are walking on a tightrope here, and so let's plan this. What's the reason why we even approved the
Yeah, that's right. How much would it help you to have that study?
A ton. I mean,
And that would be able to, you could weigh it out and see how much needs to go where?
You're talking an investment of $9,000
Yes.
versus a possible
Yeah,
$4.4
that's
million
right. So
swing.
know where you're going to put what you're going to do.
Yeah, and I think what I would, again, back to the advisory board, where I'd like this discussion to go is, let's talk about that as a variable. I don't deny that is a variable we need to discuss. But I want to do so, and Mr. Bach and I talked about this in great lengths, is he doesn't want to see the city go bankrupt either. But obviously, he wants to make sure that he's doing the right thing by the utility, which I respect him for. And I agree with him. He has a responsibility to those utilities, which he's advocating, and I have no problem for him doing that. And so I think there's a middle ground. I want to find out what that middle ground is. And I want to have data in hand before I start making those decisions.
I agree. I think it would be wiser for us to look at the study before we just put that much money into that. But I also think it's a good idea. And I think that perhaps not all of it right away, but maybe just a little at a time, maybe making payments to it so that it helps float the utilities just that much longer so that we do not have to raise rates on citizens, at least not for another year.
With
How
the
much
study,
do you-
it's going to tell you also, regardless of how you fix that with the fund, how we're going to project out for 5 years.
Right.
Right.
And we need to know that.
Yeah, we do. That would be the more
Because you might watch that money,
wise
you push it in,
decision.
and you see it kind of taper off. And I don't think anyone wants to see that. I think, and I'm hearing some good news from Mr. Bach as to the financial performance of the utility for 14. And so hopefully we're really starting to come out of, and plus we've had some hits. One was like we talked about the cable sale of the building with 1.6 million.
1.65.
And we're seeing some good revenue numbers coming in. So it's very possible we're starting to turn a corner. But again, let's look at the data.
Was the catalytic converters paid through the utilities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we paid
That
that
was a
through
hit.
cash on
That was a
hand.
hit too, yeah.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is the city, and again, I'm not saying that the city shouldn't do this. I advocate for it and I stand by it, is we also are paying $2.2 roughly $1 million worth of new meters as well, that normally would not have came out of our 910, what I'm calling 910 asset money. But it's an eligible expense, and that's why I put it in there, because I want to keep rates low. I don't want to push that onto the
Sure.
rates. But I think we are doing our part, but also let's do our part in negotiating this piece again once we have data.
I think the wiser decision would be to wait until we have the rate study and then see what's possible, like as far as, paying some of that money back. Did you want to amend your motion at all?
What was your figures on the 88 days? Was that 3 million?
No, that's if I put in, yeah, I'm sorry, that is, yes, I put in another 3 million, and that says as of the December 31st, your balance was right around 5.2 million. So assuming that we're not losing anything in 14, it's just an assumption because I don't have that data yet. And if you had, so let's say we break even in 14 and you had 5.2, you added 3 million to that, put it at 8.2, you'd be at 88 days of cash.
And there was like 8 million from the sale that's in general fund?
There was about
Oh.
7 and some change, 7.5.
Yeah, there's another 750,000 still in escrow. I believe as long as we meet all of the requirements of the sale, we will receive that in the first quarter of 2015, which we have. So there's another $750,000 coming to the city.
Okay, would 3 million out of that 4.4 or 4.5, whatever it was, would that keep us from having to do a rate increase
Oh, I
in
believe so.
2015?
I believe so.
What's the lowest amount that you could take into the utilities without a rate increase?
Well,
That's
that's a difficult question.
That's
If
why you
you-
need to
That's
you
why
got-
we need to do the study. Do you see?
Well,
And that's what we're talking about, we're having
Right.
a study, there's been a few variables this year. I
Right.
know you have one generator that's you're rebuilding. We've had some
well,
issues with-
that was a minimal cost. The biggest income, biggest hit to the city was Plum Point had a bus vault failure. They were down for 3 months. And that was about 1.2 million. Now, some of that we still got back, so we got about 600,000 of that back, but we still had to make up in excess energy. The second one was the 1.6 million in the cable cell of the building. So if you put that back in the cable department, the negative 1.4 we're carrying on the books today would quickly become, about $1 million positive today.
So you're saying 1.6 million? That's what you need?
No, what I'm saying is, I would like to see, I would think it would be nice, and I've said this from the very beginning. I understand the city owned the cable department.
Right.
It was an asset of the city. If it came back 50-50, I would be okay with that. Split it down the middle. We have done that on sale of land that the utilities bought. We have sold land. It was split down the middle. So to me, it's no different. I just think that, I've said from day one, I think that some of that money should be returned to utilities. The benefit of that
I don't
is-
disagree with you, but I do think we have to worry about, like what he's saying, we do have to worry about the Coliseum. We are not going to close that Coliseum. So we have to put some money into that to make it, whatever Mr. Kaplan is trying to work on to keep that floating, that's what we have to face right now, decision-wise. We have to
Right.
make sure we can keep that building open. We have to make sure that we can keep the utility rates low. There's a lot of different things,
But yeah, but I don't disagree with what everyone's saying, including Mr. Bach, is I think there's some middle ground, and I think, again, let's get the data, let's talk about it, let's start at the advisory board level, let's funnel up to this level, and then I think we'll have something for you in the near future.
I feel we need to pay the money back to them, but I don't want to bankrupt the city. And I think we need to do the study on it,
See where we stand.
see where we stand, and then from there, start paying them off. Because I've listened to the advisory board, and I think they would agree to that.
I think they would.
Okay. Did you want to amend your motion, or,
Well, I still think it's a good idea. If I understood Mr. Bach right, he said like half of it, would, and Mr. Kaplan said the 3 million would do to like 80-something days, which is, so the half of that 4.4, say if we did 2.2, that would still leave quite a bit in reserves for the city to work on and listen to that, and then keep us from having a rate increase on the citizens. And I
you don't want to
realize-
wait until after we've got the rate study done before we?
Well, if we owe them the money and it's going to keep all the
'Cause I wouldn't
citizens
be
from having
opposed
a
to
rate
having that.
increase,
Okay.
just with half of it, like what Mr. Bach said, would be fine to keep it from having a rate increase in 2015 for all the citizens. And that would leave the biggest portion of that cable sales into the general fund reserve, then to offset some of the other things that Mr. Kaplan was talking about. So I'll amend the motion to the half of it at 2.2 million to the cable to keep, do away with the necessity for a or for a rate increase.
I second that.
Okay.
Without the assessment, I think you're guessing that this is going to keep us from having a rate increase.
Mr. Bach said it'd keep us from having a rate increase.
He will.
And the assessment will
He
just help
did,
strengthen
and
that.
that's true, but we also want to know where we're at 5 years from now as well.
Just a minute. It looks like this is kind of a split council on this. City Attorney Robert Smith just informed that if you all are not sure, someone could make a motion to table his motion, if you felt that was necessary. But we could do a roll call.
It doesn't have to be a roll call, but I'm saying I think you have to see if you've got a vote on it.
Okay.
Do we have to vote on it, or can it be?
Someone can make a motion to table it, and it has to be seconded, and then they can vote a motion to table it till after the study. Because then is that correct?
So we don't have to
Madam
vote
Clerk?
on this merchant motion first?
No, I think they have to vote on this motion first, you know. I didn't bring mine.
I don't know.
I'll just
Defer.
Since
Defer
you've got a
to Madam
second
Clerk.
on it.
Okay, let's vote on the motion.
Here's what my suggestion is going to be before we vote on it. I would like to see this actually, if this goes down, if this does not pass, this motion does not go through, I would like to see possibly it added onto the agenda after the rate study. So that's just my suggestions. Roll call.
Councilman DeGaris.
Yes.
Councilwoman Abshir.
Yes.
Councilman Tinsley.
No.
Councilman Johnson.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Russian.
No.
Mayor Pearson.
No.
It's defeated.
But Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes.
So, Madam Mayor, back to our process is, assuming, once we get to voting session, that the utility financial solution 5-year projection is approved, and we get the 1-year rate design shortly thereafter, you're looking, again, there wasn't going to be, rate increases were not going to be recommended January 1st anyways. We're not going to have enough time to get all this data done before then anyways. And so you're looking at probably the end of the year, we'll start getting the 5-year projection. We'll work with the advisory committee and the council subsequently with that data. And then once there is a consensus of, the direction, financial direction of the utility, then we can put together a rate design. And then we can talk about the variables of cash and everything like that at that point. You're looking at probably, my guess, end of first quarter of 15, which is, the earliest that I could see us taking any potential action on this anyways. And that was, because it's just going to take time, because it's just not something that, rate increases never should be looked at lightly, and I know we're not, and that's why we're having this healthy debate here. But there's a process, a due process that we have set up historically I think we should follow, and let's see where it leads us. And then, either that's end of March, early April, or May, once you guys ultimately make a decision. I just don't want to rush the process. What I'm saying is let's work through it and see where it leads us.
I think that's a smart thing to do. I think that definitely look at Councilman DeGaris's motion at a later time after the rate study has been done, and I think that was a good idea. But okay. We're still on item G. Does anyone want to move item G to a voting session on December 15th?
I think we need to workshop it again, don't we? Mr. Kaplan?
You have two choices. Either we can put it as it will be ready to take action on the 15th, but I'm just not sure. Historically, you guys have always closed out your fiscal year 14 ahead of approving your 15, because there obviously is some impact. And so we're not going to have fiscal year 14 numbers ready by the 15th. They'll be ready at the earliest by the 29th.
We could have a special meeting and devote that meeting to this alone.
Correct.
As vast as it is, I think that would be a good thing to do.
To have those two items you're saying, the fiscal
Workshop
14.
and voting?
No,
Would be
workshop.
voting.
You'd workshop, and then you could vote then on the 15th. We have a meeting before the 15th.
We will not have the 14 data ready by that point, but we can do the 15
But you
budget.
can do the 15th, and then, but I still think you should have a special meeting just for budget.
Okay.
I mean,
As soon as the numbers are ready, rather than wait till the 29th?
Yeah, because the 15th, we'll be ready by the 15th meeting.
so we could have a workshop on the 15th. Then have
And you can vote on it.
And vote on it.
Correct. But what I'm saying is that your 14 numbers for year-end close will not be available at that point, because historically, you've voted on closing out your fiscal year, and then you approve the next year's
Then
budget.
can we not have a regular workshop on it like we do tonight, and then after the 15th, have a special meeting called for the budget and vote at that time?
Yes.
Yes, on 29.
Yep, and that's why I just tentatively reserved the 29th as a potential.
And I think that'd be good to do, like you said.
I agree too.
That's your question.
Okay, so do we have any motions?
I'll make a motion, we move the voting session to the 29th on the budget. Is that what we need?
Are we going to workshop it first?
And workshop
Yes.
at the 15th?
Okay, so motion to workshop item G on the 15th and voted on the 29th. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to action required items. Bill number 7754, the City Council will take action on an ordinance vacating a portion of an easement between the City of Poplar Bluff and Eli and Frida Osborne.
Move for first reading.
Second.
Motion and a second for first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, vacating a portion of an easement between the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and Eli Osborne and Frida Osborne.
Move for second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second for second reading of Bill number 7754. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, vacating a portion of an easement between the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and Eli Osborne and Frida Osborne.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second for adoption. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Councilwoman Abshir?
Yes.
Councilman Tinsley?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russian?
Yes.
Mayor Pearson?
Yes.
It passes.
Okay. Bill number 7755, the City Council will take action on an ordinance vacating a portion of an easement between the City of Poplar Bluff and Walter R. and Betty G. Parkin.
Move with first reading.
Second.
Motion and second for first reading of Bill number 7755. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, vacating a portion of an easement between the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and Walter R. Parkin and Betty G. Parkin.
Move for second reading.
Second.
Motion and second for second reading of Bill number 7755. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, vacating a portion of an easement between the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and Walter R. Parkin and Betty G. Parkin.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption of Bill number 7755. Do we have any comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilman Tinsley?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Abshir?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russian?
Yes.
Mayor Pearson?
Yes.
It passes with a 6.
At this time, I'll ask Mayor Pro Tem Russian to take care of Bill number 7756.
Action required item, Bill number 7756. City Council will take action on an ordinance granting a conditional use permit for the operation of an adult daycare facility to be located at 2162-1 North Westwood Boulevard.
Move for first reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Bill 7756. Mr. Smith?
Did I take the vote first?
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Smith.
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, granting a conditional use permit for the operation of an adult daycare facility to be located at 2162-1 North Westwood Boulevard by Cambridge Adult Care Center of Poplar Bluff, LLC.
Move for second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the second reading of 7756. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Smith?
In ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, granting a conditional use permit for the operation of an adult daycare facility to be located at 2162-1 North Westwood Boulevard by Cambridge Adult Care Center of Poplar Bluff, LLC.
Move for adoption.
Move for adoption. Roll call?
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Abshir?
Yes.
Councilman Tinsley?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russian?
Yes.
It passes.
It passes, no opposed.
Bill number 7757, the City Council will take action on an ordinance approving a settlement agreement with CenturyLink Wireless and assigning a percentage of the settlement proceeds to the Missouri Municipal League.
Move for first reading.
Motion and a second for first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri authorizing the mayor of the City of Poplar Bluff to approve a settlement agreement with CenturyLink Wireless and assigning a percentage of the settlement proceeds to the Missouri Municipal League.
Move for second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second for second reading of 7757. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri authorizing the mayor of the City of Poplar Bluff to approve a settlement agreement with the CenturyLink Wireless and assigning a percentage of the settlement proceeds to the Missouri Municipal League.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Motion and a second for adoption of 7757. Any comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Abshir?
Yes.
Councilman Tinsley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russian?
Yes.
And Mayor Pearson.
Yes.
The bill passes.
Bill number 7758, the City Council will take action on an ordinance approving the Plum Point Unit Power Purchaser Certificate regarding the sale of electricity.
Move for first reading.
Second.
Motion and a second for first reading of 7758. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri approving the Plum Point Unit Power Purchase Certificate regarding the sale of electricity.
Move for second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second for second reading of 7758. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri approving the Plum Point Unit Power Purchase Certificate regarding the sale of electricity.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Motion and a second for adoption of 7758. Do we have any comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilwoman Abshir?
Yes.
Councilman Tinsley?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russian?
Yes.
Mayor Pearson.
Yes.
It passes.
Bill number 7759, the City Council will take action on an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a master service agreement between the City of Poplar Bluff and Big River Telephone for the purchase of fiber circuit.
Move for first reading of 7759.
Second.
Motion and second for first reading is 7759. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri authorizing the mayor of the City of Poplar Bluff to execute a master service agreement with Big River Telephone Company LLC for the purchase of fiber circuit.
Move for second reading.
Second.
Motion is second for second reading of bill number 7759. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri authorizing the mayor of the City of Poplar Bluff to execute a master service agreement with Big River Telephone Company LLC for the purchase of fiber circuit.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Motion is second for adoption of bill number 7759. Do we have any comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilman Tinsley?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Abshir?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russian?
Yes.
Mayor Pearson.
Yes.
We have 6 yes votes.
Bill number 7760, the City Council will take action on an ordinance accepting a bid from Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield with regard to health and dental coverage of employees of the City of Poplar Bluff.
Move for first reading of bill number 7760.
Second.
Motion is second for first reading of 7760. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri accepting a bid from Blue Cross Blue Shield with regard to health and dental insurance coverage for the employees of the City of Poplar Bluff.
Move for second reading.
Second.
Motion is second for second reading of bill number 7760. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri accepting a bid from Blue Cross Blue Shield with regard to health and dental insurance coverage for the employees of the City of Poplar Bluff.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Motion is second for adoption. Do we have any comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Abshir?
Yes.
Councilman Tinsley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russian?
Yes.
Mayor Pearson?
Yes.
6 yes votes.
Okay, moving on. Item HH, the City Council of the City of Poplar Bluff will meet in a closed meeting in which they will discuss such matters which are exempted under the Open Meetings Law, Section 610.021.1 RSMO litigation, 610.021.2 RSMO real estate, and Section 610.021.3 RSMO personnel.
Make a motion, we go adjourn to closed after the city manager's report.
Second.
Motion and second to go into closed meeting after City Manager's report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Kaplan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. To give you some updates on some progress I've been making in regards not only to the fiscal year 15 budget, but also my meetings with advisory committees. First of which was my first meeting in front of the advisory board for the Black River Coliseum. I was very pleased on how that meeting went. I think there was a dialogue and exchange of information between the city staff, mainly being myself, and the advisory board members. I think, again, it was a very well-run meeting. I think there was, again, a very good lengthy discussion on the pros and cons to my proposal, which was to go to a part-time staff facility, meaning that instead of it being open 7 days a week, it'd be only open 2 days a week. And so we debated the merits of that. I think, again, there was a very good exchange and dialogue of information. And the suggestion made by the Black River Coliseum Advisory Board was to not pursue the part-time operation until more data is collected, which I've had no problem with, obviously working with that advisory board and doing such. And so subsequently met with the full-time staff of the Coliseum, explained to them the background and rationale behind my proposal, and told them how we're going to move forward. So fiscal 15 is going to be a very important, very productive year for us to work together on how to bridge as much of this gap as we can. And I think that's, goes back to our discussions between myself and the council about workshopping the item. It definitely will be. It will be first, again, going back to process. I want to work through the advisory board to gather their insight and information. Once we, start putting together a plan of action moving forward. Once we get consensus there, then we'll move forward here. But with that, I just want to make sure. I'm not sure how many citizens in Poplar Bluff watch a public access channel on this information, or listen to these meetings over YouTube. But the one thing that it troubles me is we have a paper that does not care about the truth. And so let me read you in bold letters what was in our paper last Sunday. I'm sorry, previous Sunday before last. Citizen Board nixes city plan to lock BRC doors. Mr. Godwin, did I ever indicate I was going to lock the Coliseum?
That's my knowledge.
Yeah, that was my knowledge as well. This is disgraceful and dishonest of a paper I have ever seen in my career. And these headlines are shameful. How can you be educating a public with these types of headlines? You read through the body of the thing. Yeah, they might give you some of the good information that was in the meeting, but there was never once any discussion about locking this facility. That was point one. The second piece is working through the advisory board for the municipal utilities. And again, very productive meeting. Good exchange of information, good dialogue.
I'll agree with that 100%.
Same thing with, again, these advisory boards are really doing well. They're doing exactly what they're been appointed to do. Let's go back to the paper, shall we? Utilities Board, Kaplan studies a study joining funds on Monday. Above that, in blue letters, high electric rates follow new city manager. I find it interesting that this is the only community that I've ever managed that has the electric utility. But this says that new high rates always follow me no matter where I'm in my career. And then you read the article, it talks about how I've raised water or sewer rates at other communities, which is true. But what in the heck does that have to do with high electric rates follow new city manager? It doesn't. It's shame on the writer, Donna Farley, shame on the paper. They don't have any interest in the truth here. They have an interest in one thing, selling papers. Now, what kind of paper do we have? I've downloaded some information that quality newspapers versus tabloids, a checklist. Go down to the bottom of it, and I could be happy to share it since the paper likes looking at Google. I can send them this Google link. Information. What's a normal paper do? Largely objective of various points of view. What does a tabloid do? One-sided. What does a newspaper do? They're problem-oriented. What does a tabloid do? Opinion and person-oriented. What person are they focusing on? 2 words, Heath Kaplan. Is there any questions, Madam Mayor?
No, Mr. Kaplan. I think you have addressed that significantly.
And I will address it in my future newsletters. The only message I have for this paper is that I'm not afraid of them. I'm going to continue to run the city in the manner that's best for the city and for the majority of the public. I am not going to be manipulated. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be blackmailed into doing what they want me to do. They do not run the city of Poplar, Bluff. Heath Kaplan does. Thank you for your time.
The only thing, to add is, we're trying to make strides, whether we're talking about the fire engines, or we're talking about the health issue, health care, trying to get under wraps, trying to get the Coliseum where it's more balanced. There are so many things that we're trying to do and address problems that have existed for years. And, the public needs to really have an understanding that any spending we do, which is for capital improvement, is an investment in the community that, if done right, is going to help the entire community and the infrastructure and the commercial businesses and the residences. And that's what we're trying to do. And, I've said it once and I'll say it again, that if a person has a concern about how the city's being ran or has a rumor they want to answer, they can call Mr. Kaplan, they can call any councilman and ask a question. And if we don't have the answer, we'll direct it to the proper personnel. But we are all earnestly trying to do things to better the community, and we need all aspects of media and consciousness of our society or community to be understanding of that.
I have received a few messages from individuals in the community that are questioning about the misconstrued information that they are getting from our media, and it makes it very difficult when trying to deal with constituents and explain to them what the truth is. And I just hope that we can start to see more objective writing in our local news.
Well, it will help if everybody pulls the same direction. We need to pull the same direction. That's what we need to do.
And the last point I'd like to make, Madam Mayor, is no matter how bad this gets, I'd like to commend our advisory boards, staff, They have really risen to the occasion of what the true issues of this city is, which is we got to deal with budget gaps. Really, it comes down to that, is how do we deal with our budget gap with the Coliseum? We're going to have a very productive series of meetings that are going to go over a course of 6 to 12 months to figure out how to close that gap as much as we can. Same thing with utilities that we talked about tonight. That's the healthy, democratic way of doing business, and that's really what I see here. And so I don't want you guys to think that I'm just so fed up. This community is being really, is doing very well with this change. They're dealing with the situation at hand. No one's cowering to the challenge. Everyone knows that we have to deal with these issues productively, and I'm proud of those advisory boards, the staff, because I think they're handling very complex, difficult decisions. They're not popular decisions. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I've got one thing, I don't know if I can bring it up now, but Oak Grove Road is partially owned by the city and partially owned by the county, I believe. Is that correct, Jeremy?
County, state, and city.
County, state, and city's three. If you notice the road out in front of the hospital, in front of Menards, it's breaking up bad. It's got some cracks in it that Phil McCard fall in it one of these days, starting to do that. So I don't know if there's a guarantee on that road or what. It's not that old, but the way it's going, the way the winter's starting and the freezing thawing, it's going to come terribly apart this winter.
What I can have is I'll have Jeremy and the engineer look into it. But Jeremy, do you want to address the initial concern on that, please?
The concerns Dave has, there are some cracking out there that has all been noted when the project was done. I know it is past a year construction warranty on it, but the spots that have been noted in there are still guaranteed by the contractor. They will be fixed.
It will be.
That's the spot there in front of, right where the state and city meets.
Yeah.
There's a large crack is what I think you're
Yeah,
talking about,
but
Dave. That
Then
is,
some going into the
that is covered under the
hospital.
warranty.
There's cracks there and on
That,
the
and
other
then
side.
on down at Shelby and Oak Grove, there's a
Yeah.
couple spots.
And there's something else, I can't remember what it was, but.
But yeah, actually, it's state, city, and county.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly how that went, but I know that the city part looks bad.
Yep. There's that one real bad section. It's got about a 3-inch gap in it.
Yeah.
That is covered under.
So it's trying to be corrected.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
And the reason why it's prolonged them so long to fix is because of the other projects they were doing, the Oak Grove Phase 3 and now the Phase 1 there.
But apparently it is under
Yes,
guarantee.
it is.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Take a 5-minute break.
Okay. Motion and a second to adjourn so that we can go to the closed session after a 5-minute break. All in favor? Aye.